So welcome back everybody, and if you've got this far, congratulations. Okay, so we are now on, let me check my crib sheet here, we're on row 39, would you believe it? And this is the fourth and final part of the videos relating to putting these little leaf motifs in, which started out as individual leaves, and we've outlined them and attached them to the main blanket, and then we went round and secured them, and now we've got to fill up the space underneath. Now I've worked the first bit here, so you can see it comes around here, goes under there, it actually goes behind the stem, and then we work out to this side and back up to the end of the repeat. So the bit we're actually doing is filling in this gap here. Now this is the tricky bit, and originally I dreamt up some super complicated way of doing it, and it wasn't the best way. So I am going to talk a little bit about that, because one of the things I want my films to be about is, as a designer, how you encounter problems and how you solve them. So initially, if I bring this one in, initially I realised that when we get to this point and we've connected the row up to the leaf, then if you've got your yarn at the front and work along here, you then finish up with all your yarn on the wrong side of the blanket, because you then need to go behind the stem. So I got around that by attaching it but pulling yarn from the back underneath up through in a big loop. Now the problem with that was, which I've only just realised, is that having worked along the front, I finished up with this rather unsightly ridge of stitches along here, which it sort of detracts from the whole leaf motif close up. I mean, not so your average person would notice maybe, but as a designer that annoys me. And a couple of days ago I had a real eureka moment and went, oh my god, it's so simple. I just need to work from the back. So as you can see on this one, we don't have that ridge. The ridge is actually on the back. So that's how I got round that one. Now let's just lose the prototype and I'll just start at the beginning again. Now on this particular round there's going to be 2 rows, and we're aiming to fill this gap up. So we've got to do 1 row underneath and 1 row over the top, and finish up somewhere near a shape that we're starting to approach a circle again before we start the next pattern band. And it's obvious that it's too big a gap, and we've got the problem of working underneath these to do it all in 1 row. So I'm going round once under and once over with the same colour to fill the gap up. And that's another reason for where I've started at the point here, means that when I finish the entire row, I'll come up here and I'm at a simple place to start the next row. And that's something that as a designer you need to think of, and so sometimes you can do a whole row and design it and then realise actually I should have started in a different place, and you kind of, you know, you take that on board and you roll with it. So I'm going to start my repeat here, and I'm working in pomegranate, and I know I've got daylight bulb on my lamp, but it's not showing a very good colour contrast, so I hope you can see what I'm doing there. Okay, so for that point, just to mark it, we are doing a DC, a chain 1 and a DC in this stitch here, which was a 2 double crochets together. So we got a big loop there, and that's what we're working into. And then we're just going to slowly increase stitch size. So we're going to do 2 of each, 2 double crochet, 2 half treble, and I should say I'm working in English, not American, in case you're confused watching this, and 2 trebles, And now we just need to tilt it over a little bit, so I'm going to actually do 2 double trebles in the next stitch. And one more just to get us to a good point to start the leaf, and then our last stitch on the loose bit is a triple treble, or a treble treble if you prefer. Right, now we've got to this point where we've matched up and we're about to fill this gap up. So I am not going to try and show you my silly complicated method, but at this point we're going to turn this over and we're going to work into the leaf from behind and then go back to working into this row. So at the tip we've got our chain 3, and we're going to work down the chain 2s down the bottom edge of that leaf. So going in from behind, we go into that first one and put a slip stitch in there. And these are just fastening stitches, so they don't take up a space on the row below. Now I hope you can see this because it's a little bit tight to work. So on my next 2 stitches I'm going to do double trebles. I'm going to work in pairs of stitches, because if you think about it, those chains are 2 stitches apart on the leaf. Okay, so I've done my first 2. Now I'm going to grab my leaf again and work a slip stitch into that, and then go back to the bottom. Now this is the point where the curve of the leaf makes the shape a bit narrower, so for the next few stitches I'm just going to use trebles. Again, that's something that you need to look at the shape you're trying to achieve and decide which stitch is the right length as a designer. So I've done my 2 there, and then I'm actually going to do 3 sets of trebles. So that's the first one, and oops, yarn over, one, 2, that's my second pair, into the next loop and slip stitch, and that's the next pair, and then it does actually open out a little bit more at the end, so we're going to use a longer stitch just to fill in the gap at the bottom. And we don't actually go right to the edge because it didn't really hold its shape very well to do that. So I'm going to, in this back to the bottom bit there, I'm going to put 2 double trebles, sorry, I nearly said double crochet, double trebles in the same stitch to make a little bit of a V, which will help fill up the gap beside the stem. Now, do you remember we left a chain 1 here at the base of the leaf? So that's going to be our slip stitch anchor there. And then I'm just going to make 3 chain across the back and find the chain 1 on the other side and slip stitch into that. Now, you actually count down 7 stitches to find your starting point, but in real terms that means that you jump these 2 double crochets in the chain and you actually start in the next stitch. This is specific to the pattern, and obviously if you're designing yourself then it might be something completely different. So again, keep your leaf bent over forwards, but we're going to start in this stitch here with that 2 double crochet, not a double treble, I will get it right, and then we're going to pick up our chain on the bottom of the leaf, and then we do our 3 pairs of trebles. It's a little bit awkward working in front of the camera here to actually show you clearly what I'm doing, so I do hope you understand what I'm trying to achieve, because it's kind of working on 2 levels at once. So we're doing 2 there, slip stitch into the next bit of the leaf edge, push that away, go back to the bottom, 2 more trebles, and slip stitch into the chain 2 on the leaf, and I've now lost count. That's 2 double trebles and then 2 pairs of trebles, so we've got 1 more lot of trebles to do. And find that next chain, go in from the back to pick it up, because that keeps the bulk of it at the back. And then our final one under the space is a double, so we do 2 double trebles, and then that's the last chain 2, because that one's the chain 3 at the tip. So we slip stitch into that. Right, so now we have successfully worked under that, and we're just back on the single row without juggling everything around too much. And so the first stitch is a triple treble, and the second a double. Now this is really why I put the doubles in, you see, because when it's flat that's tilting over too much now, so we need to put 2 stitches in just to give that little V shape to bring it vertical to the edge of the previous row again. And then we're back on the normal pairs of sizes going down this side, because we're working back towards the point. So 2 trebles and 2 half trebles and 2 double crochets, and then we're back at the beginning of the repeat in this double treble together, and that's where we did our little chain 1, which we'll use as a marker for counting on the next row. So there we have it. Look, we've got it attached to the blanket. How good is that? So I hope that made sense, and as you can see, we've left our nasty little ridge at the back now, and it's much neater on the front. Now we've got everything in place, we've got some nice little indented leaves on each bit of the blanket. So thank you for watching, and I hope I gave some useful advice about designing if you want to think about designing your own stuff, and see you later. Bye.